Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Be Green with Amy. I'm Amy. After adopting a whole food plant-based lifestyle, my hubby Rick and I lost over 130 pounds. Now I coach others on their plant-based journey. Just Task Voice. Let's welcome our guest.
Vicki Brett-Gach is a certified personal chef, master certified vegan lifestyle coach, plant-based culinary instructor, and the author of the Plant-Based for Life cookbook. Please click like to help Be Green with Amy. Welcome, Vicki Brett-Gach.
Welcome back, my green warrior, and welcome to the show, Vicki.
Yay! Thank you, Amy. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, I am so happy. We've been waiting for you to be on the show for a while and anticipating. And Green Warrior today, Vicki is going to be showcasing. I couldn't believe it when she told me she's going to do breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So these recipes are, well, she designed them to tantalize your taste buds while supporting your journey towards sustained weight loss and the reversal of chronic diseases. So get ready, because this is going to be a culinary adventure that proves plant-based eating can be delicious and transformative. Right, Vicki?
Absolutely. That's absolutely right. For sure. People think this is hard. It does not have to be hard.
No, it certainly doesn't. And I'm going to, actually, I wanted to start off because we have a true or false game that we like to do. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off, we just have one question today. So I'm going to start off with our game, and then we're going to be going shortly into the recipe demos. So here we go.
It's time for True or False on Be Green with Amy Live. Answer true or false to Amy's questions in the comments below, and Amy will ask our guest for the expert answer.
Okay, Green Warrior, put on your thinking cap. Here we go. True or false? Being vegan is expensive.
False.
False. Okay. And why do you say that, Vicki?
It does not have to be expensive at all. There are so many ways that people can be plant-based on a budget with all kinds of easy tricks to have in your pantry and your freezer to make turning a meal into quickly getting it on the table from just an idea to actually ready to serve with very, very simple ingredients like beans and potatoes and frozen vegetables and things like that. It does not have to be expensive. So so that's definitely a myth. I think we can disprove that today.
Yeah, I think you will. And I've even come across that myself. And I think sometimes people think that being vegan or whole food plant-based, however you want to phrase it, sometimes it could be expensive if you purchased pre-made food, right?
That's exactly right. If you buy a lot of kind of on the more highly processed foods that are plant-based, they do tend to be more expensive than the very simple ingredients that go into creating a lovely recipe at home. And they don't have to take a long time. The things we're going to make today are very quick and simple with easy to pronounce ingredients, and none of them are very expensive. They're just all easily accessible. And yeah, they can be simple, easy, and delicious.
Yeah. And today, these things that these delicious dishes that you're going to prepare for us, they're familiar. That's the thing that I love about it. So kind of tantalize us a little bit and tell us what you're going to be doing with these.
Well, I think that what makes being whole food plant-based sustainable is making the food easy enough to fit into your day, but also delicious enough that you want to come back to it. So what I'm going to be creating today is kind of my version of how these are go-to recipes I make in my own kitchen over and over, and they're the same recipes that I show to my clients because I know they work. They work for me, they work for them. So we're going to start with a very easy no-cook breakfast that will be a version of overnight oats with very delicious flavors. but again, simple. And then a super easy salad that someone can have for lunch with a delicious, creamy homemade dressing. And then a quick dish that you can make for dinner that I call mac and cheese perfection. It's just so easy, so delicious, and a sauce that can be used in lots of ways throughout the week. So yes, we'll get started with, showing how easy things can be with just very, very basic ingredients.
Oh, well, that's so exciting. And we have just wanted to do some shout outs. Sid Nodder. Hi, Sid. She said hello to two of my favorite people. Well, we were talking about you, Sid, right before the show, saying that you're one of our favorite people.
Absolutely. Hi, Sid. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Sid. And Stephanie Simpson. Hello, everyone. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi,
And
Stephanie.
Mona Arant is saying hi to everyone. Oh, isn't this nice? We're getting a lot of people popping in and saying hi. This is just so nice to see everybody saying hello to everyone. And thanks. Hi, thanks. See, getting a lot of fun people coming in. So nice. It's a great tribe that we're building here, and it's really nice when we see the new faces that we haven't met before, and then the familiar ones as well. I think it's very, very cool. And
Absolutely.
I wanted to let everybody know that the recipes that Vicki will be preparing today, don't worry about scratching them on paper or whatever. We're going to have them all available to you. There'll be a link in the show notes, and you'll have it all laid out for you with the ingredients and the directions. Everything will be there, so you can just sit back and relax and enjoy it, and not stress about it. And let's just see. Okay, I just want to make sure if we had any more shout outs before we begin. So are you ready to start out with the first recipe, Vicki?
I am ready.
All
And
right.
so I'll just move our cookbook aside here.
Oh, but I'm glad that you say cookbook. I forgot to mention that Vicki is donating a copy of that very cookbook that she just moved away. And one of you guys that are watching or getting the link, you're going to be able to go ahead and try to enter to win this cookbook. And we're not going to draw for it today, but we will be drawing for it on our next broadcast. So the information for the drawing is also going to be in the show notes too. So this is a wonderful cookbook, and you're going to see just a sample of the kind of things that Vicki has created, and you're going to enjoy it very much. And she'll talk more about the book after she does the recipe demos. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted to get that done. And I also, and Sid, you're in the house, we're going to be drawing for Sid's book, The Plan A Diet, My Green Warriors. You have gone and entered in to win this, and we have a few people that have tried to put in their entrances to win this book, which is a wonderful book. And we're going to be drawing for it a little bit later, so stay tuned, see if your name gets picked. Okay, now that we're doing that, I'm going to let you take it away, Vicki.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, Amy, and thank you so much for allowing me to join today. I'm so excited to be able to share a few recipes with everyone. And many people have heard about Veganuary as a way of sort of jump-starting a fresh way of thinking about our health with whole food, plant-based, vegan food, and as a start to the new year. And the recipes I'm making today for you are great examples of ways that you can kind of make this easy in your own kitchen. And so we'll start today with our overnight oats, which is a way to kind of create almost, you could do a week's worth. You can do as many days ahead as you wish, because these stay really great. They last really well in the refrigerator for a number of days. So you can kind of line up a number of jars. I'm going to do 2 today, but these are a really very efficient way to kind of create a breakfast that's waiting for you. They're also very portable. You can grab one and take it with you in your lunchbox for work. You can, anyway, lots of easy ways that you can enjoy these. And another fun way is actually by, so it can be breakfast, but it can also be a snack or a late night, even indulgence, as because it's all good, healthy food. So here's what we're going to do. I've got this little funnel that fits the jar. You don't need this, but it's just my way of just making sure everything ends up where it's supposed to. So I'm putting about 1/3 of a cup of oats into 2 different jars. And again, you can line up, 5 of them, 8 of them. If you've got several people in your family that will be enjoying these, you can make as many as you need to. Or you can just do one. And another thing you can do is mix up your flavors from day to day. But I'm just going to make these 2 that will be the same as each other. And as I mentioned, I'm using just about 1/3 of a cup of oats. But that's flexible too, because if you want to have more or less oats and a different ratio of the fruit on top to the oats, all of this is just exactly customizable to whatever makes you very happy in the morning. So we're going to start with the oats, as I mentioned, and then we're going to put in a half a teaspoon or so of cinnamon, or you can use an apple pie spice, or you can use a pumpkin pie spice, whatever you like. I like cinnamon, so that's what I'm using as my go-to. And then from there, we're going to put in our fruit, and I've got no, actually, next thing we're going to do is put in our milk, and you can use any kind of a plant milk that you like. I'm using just a vanilla unsweetened almond milk. And what I'm doing, because I don't like a lot of liquid, is I'm just pouring enough to cover the oats. And then as it sits, the oats are going to absorb the liquid and become softer overnight. And the longer they're in the refrigerator, the softer they become. And they end up after a couple of days of almost having kind of a texture similar to cooked oats, but before that they're a little bit more chewy and quite lovely. So again, if you like more liquid, you could put more liquid into your jar. That's what I like. You could also use juice if you wanted to instead of the plant milk. And then from there, I'm going to add some frozen raspberries. So I'm adding, roughly 1/3 of a cup or so to each of these. And in my book, I have one where I'm using a very similar recipe, but it's got blueberries instead of the raspberries. What I love about frozen berries is that the juice from the berries just starts to kind of leak down and kind of bleed into that below into the oats, and it creates this lovely sort of pink kind of color that starts to flavor the milk, and it's just so lovely. So after that, now I'm adding another frozen fruit, and you wouldn't need to. You could have it all be one kind. You could have it be some frozen and some fresh. You could add, fresh berries to this if you choose. I like frozen because they're already ready to, they're already washed, they're already prepped. So I love to use those. I'm using now some peaches, and you can also, if you choose to, use something like a mango or pineapple. You get that same kind of color and a little bit different flavor profile. And you can use as little or as much of this as you like. And so we've got that kind of all stuffed in there. And now what I'm going to do is just top it off. Now this could be plenty. It could be just perfect and ready for tomorrow, or you can just garnish it with just a little bit more flavor. And that's what I'm doing now. So I'm going to put on top, you can use a little bit of any dried fruit you like. I've got a little dates that I diced up, and it's about a tablespoon or so of each that I'm putting into each one. But you could use raisins or a different kind of dried fruit, or skip this step. It just adds a little bit of sweetness because I'm making this without any sweetener. And again, you can do whatever you like for your overnight oats because these are highly customizable. And then on top of that, we're just going to add a little bit of nuts. I've got some toasted almonds that I'm putting on top. And you could skip this step if you're avoiding nuts, or you could use a different kind of nut if you wanted to. And these are all ready to put into the refrigerator for tomorrow. And they really look great to me already, but they'll get even better as they sit. So what I'm going to do now is put the tops on them and then let them sit overnight, and to serve them tomorrow morning if you wanted to have one in the morning. because this would be just the perfect amount of time, is to take this out. And if you want to, you could just eat right out of the jar cold. But I like it kind of warmed up just a little bit. So I would tomorrow put this into a bowl and microwave it for, a small amount of time, maybe 30 seconds or something like that, again to taste. And I might cover this with some fresh banana or a little bit more fruit, because I like a lot of fruit. So, but this is perfect just as it is, and I think you could enjoy this either warm or cold, whatever you prefer. And that is our overnight oats.
Wow,
So
it
breakfast,
almost looks like a dessert.
I know.
Oh, wait, let me
And
get you full screen so you can show.
So
That's
these
so
are
great.
just so delicious. And I actually a lot of times prefer a savory breakfast. And so for me, sometimes this overnight oats becomes a quick lunch in the afternoon. And so again, you can use this any way you like. It could even be, like you say, Amy, it could be a delicious, healthy dessert as well. So that's our oats.
And you could eat it cold or room temperature, or you could, like you said, warm it up, and that's wonderful. And the fact that you can vary the ingredients to what your lifestyle and your taste buds dictate, just
And
so
whatever
awesome. But
is
it just because my grandma, well, she used to make Jello, but she used to take them and put them in glasses, and she used to make layers of different ingredients to, and she would put fruit in there, and it reminded me of how pretty it looked, in the glasses. So the mason
absolutely.
jars are very useful.
And that's a really good point, Amy, because if someone doesn't have a jar, you can make this in a drinking glass, and just cover it with a little bit of plastic wrap. You just want to make sure that it's, the top is on just for safety so it doesn't spill in your refrigerator. But it doesn't have to be specifically a jar if you don't have one. You can use any container. I've actually heard of people who make a large glass bowl full of this because they have, a lot of people having breakfast in the morning. No reason it has to be an individual portion. It's just that for me, I'm the only one eating these. So for me, this is the right amount. And so I'm all set to go. But yeah, there's, and also these are really nice to travel with. Like if you're taking a car trip and you want to bring along a cooler with some ideas for breakfast for the next few days, it's a really nice way not to have to depend on whatever you might find roadside or in the community that you're visiting if they aren't, maybe as used to the idea of plant-based food. This is an easy breakfast, so you don't have to worry about whatever they're serving as a continental breakfast in your hotel or whatever either. So I do have this recipe in my cookbook, as I was mentioning to Amy, but this is a blueberry version, and that's one I make a lot. But I've just really started enjoying this with a variety of berries. You can use mixed berries, and this time of year, relying on frozen berries, at least I'm in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and we've got winter in a vengeance right now.
Oh yeah.
It's like 20 degrees below zero, wind chill. Now the real temperature is more like 2 degrees or 7 degrees now, something like that. It's a positive number, but it's cold. And so this is the kind of weather I like to kind of hibernate a little bit. So I don't go out to the store to get fresh produce as often as I do in the warmer weather. And so relying on a freezer with all, stocked up with different kinds of berries and peaches and mango and things like that, it makes life easy if I want to make some overnight oats or maybe put some muffins together, something like that. So yeah, so that's our first recipe.
And
That's how easy that is.
Oh, and I want to just say, Kat said that looks tasty. Yeah, I agree, Kat. It looks really, really good.
And I try to avoid sugar, so that's another reason I like to use fruit, because that way I feel like I'm indulging a little bit and I'm getting kind of satisfying my sweet tooth. That's why I added even a little dates, but that's optional. I often make this without that kind of thing as well. And it also depends on how sweet your fruit is that you're using. So if you're using, let's just say, really sweet blueberries or strawberries, you might not need to add anything extra that is a sweetener like the date here. If you're using more tart fruit, like the raspberries tend to be a little bit on the tart side when they're frozen, I think then that might be, an indicator that you could kind of add a little sweetener with the dried fruit if you choose. But again, the dried fruit itself is just the fruit. There's no sugar added or anything like that. So that's what I'm choosing. But again, everybody gets to pick what they want in their own overnight oats.
And this is nice because if you did have maybe a large family and they had some people don't like certain things, they could design it the way that they would like. That's a great idea. And Mom Caregiver said, if they don't have jars and lids like that, they should buy some, as they are just so handy. I use them and have my son's applesauces, baked beans, and chocolate sweet potato. That
Ooh.
sounds really good. Banana puddings he eats. Wow.
That sounds like lots of great ways to use the jars, and that's definitely true. I use my jars all the time for my spice mixtures and for leftovers and for sauces that I make and all kinds of things. So I find them really handy too. And they're usually just $1 or so, kind of depends. But I think you can get them on Amazon or at your local hardware store, even the grocery store. And I had a class once where we had 25 people making their own overnight oats for the next day, as that was part of what we did, is everyone got to make their breakfast and take it home. And I had, just like you're describing, if everyone likes different things, I had a variety of fruits that people could choose from. They were all frozen, I think, but different kinds of frozen fruit, different kinds of nuts, dried fruit, and people can just kind of mix and match. If someone doesn't like one kind of thing, everyone can kind of make their own. And that's a fun thing to do with kids too, because everyone can kind of prepare and that way kids take a stake in what they're going to be enjoying tomorrow. Oh, I can't wait to go get my overnight oats that I made last night. So it's a fun way to get kids to eat healthy in the morning too.
That's very clever. And Diana said, I have found jars at thrift shop at great prices, including the big mason jars. Oh, wow. See?
Great idea. Yeah. Those big ones are handy too.
In those thrift stores. I've had friends that have found instant pots and all kinds of things that people have given away. So that's a very, okay. So Kat wanted to know, how long does Vicki think is the longest they would last in the refrigerator?
So I think they might last as much as a week, and it probably depends on your refrigerator and the actual temperature in there. But I think that I've had mine that long. Usually they don't last that long. I'll just make, I tend to make enough for 3 or 4 days. And that's not because they won't last long. It's because I just like to mix things up and maybe have a little bit more variety. So I like to maybe have the same thing for a few days and then I'm ready to try something new. But if you wanted to simplify and just make enough for the week, I do think they would last you for at least 5 to 7 days.
Thank you for that. And I know that Ann Esselstyn, Dr. Esselstyn's wife, and she makes a lot of cookbooks, and she had said that one of the things she likes to eat is just rolled oats out of the container. Like she'll just take a spoonful of them and eat them. Because I think that a lot of us have thought that the only way you can eat them is if you heat them up and prepare them, right? And what you're saying is you could eat it right away, just like that, and not worry about it.
My husband actually eats raw oats also, and you definitely can. They're good for you. I like personally to give them a little bit of flavor before I eat them, but they're absolutely, go for it if you like them raw. Good stuff.
Diana said I'd prep them up ahead for 5 days. That's good to know.
Perfect.
And Sid said these sound perfect for road trips with the cooler. Oh, yes.
I think they're perfect for road trips, and I have actually done this very thing where I've put them in the, exactly like you're saying, Sid, put them in the cooler, take enough for, as the long weekend or 3 or 4 days, and then stick them into the refrigerator once you get to your hotel. And then they're good for, morning every day that you're there. So it's a fun way to make sure you've got what you need. And this is all about self-care, right? Because we're really taking the time to take good care of ourselves because we're worth it. And we're the only ones that can do that. So it's worth taking the time to just plan ahead a little bit. Can be super easy like this. And then you've got what you need and you're all set.
Yeah. And Mom Caregiver in the comments was, I guess, obviously that's what her YouTube name is, but she said that she's caring for her son and she's feeding him plant-based foods. And so self-care, and she said that it was one of the reasons is she wants to adopt the lifestyle too. She's adopting it because she wants to be there for her son. So
Exactly.
it is self-care, is care for everyone eventually.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So we can get started on our salad now.
Excellent.
And that's excellent. Yes. And that's a really simple salad that we're going to be putting together. I'm going to show you how simple. So I'm
It's a
just
beautiful
grabbing
bowl.
Thank you. This is just a glass bowl. It's a Pyrex bowl. It's a part of a set that I got at Costco of like four, I think it's 4 different size bowls, but this one's nice for a big salad. And so I love to make salads, as we all do, but I don't like to spend a ton of time on them. So I like to grab things and just make it super easy as one variation. Sometimes I make them a little bit more complex with layers in jars, and they might have beans and fruit and quinoa and all kinds of fun stuff. But my go-to for every day tends to be just something super easy. So I like to buy the pre-washed greens when I can find them. And so I'm just putting in here, I just chopped up some romaine lettuce. And so this is just my base. And I'm adding to that what's called Power Crunch. It's an immune boosting blend. And so they're basically some baby greens and some microgreens and just a little bit more color. And I just chopped them up because I like them just a little bit more bite size, but that's just me. And then now I've got my base, and it can be just this easy. And then we're going to put our salad dressing over it that we're making. But for more color, this tends to be my everyday salad. I like to put in a little bit of shredded carrots. These are just organic pre-shredded carrots. Not that you shouldn't shred them yourself or slice them, because that's even better because you've done it yourself and you know exactly, you get exactly what you want. But I do like a little bit of the convenience of having some things prepared for me as just a simple ingredient, and then to add that to my salad. So I like the combination of colors that I'm going to be showing you. Just a little bit of shredded carrots, a little bit of organic cucumber that I've sliced up. So easy, right? And then just a little bit of red cabbage for color. And cruciferous vegetables, cabbage being one of them, is always so good for us. So it's nice to try to include that every day. This is my big bowl of salad. Could not be easier. But again, this is just my base. And you could use, again, you can add any other vegetable that you love to this. But this is just going to be our simple salad. We'll make our dressing, and I'll show you how we're going to put our lunch together. So
that is so beautiful and colorful, and it just looks like something that somebody went through a lot of trouble to make, and all you did was just put in the ingredients like that.
Exactly, and it can be really easy. And again, whatever's in, whatever's in season. So if it's tomato season, you've got some delicious tomatoes you want to add, or you've got some lovely bell peppers, or you want to add onions, whatever you like, you can customize. This is just can be your base, and then you can add lots more greens to it, any other vegetables that you love. And then, as I say, to kind of turn it into even more of a satisfying meal, you could add some beans to it, some quinoa, some cooked tofu or tempeh, whatever you like. So but we'll just leave it at that as our very, very simple base today. And now we're going to start our salad dressing, and that's where it gets a little bit more exciting, but also very easy. So we're putting everything, all of our ingredients for our salad dressing. I'm calling this a creamy buttermilk ranch dressing. So it's a simple salad with our buttermilk ranch, and it's not really buttermilk, but it just kind of reminds me of buttermilk ranch dressing. So we're going to add to our blender jar 1 cup of raw cashews. So these, we don't want to use roasted. You want to make sure that these are just raw, simple cashews that don't have any oil or salt and they haven't been roasted, because that's what's going to allow us to get to the creaminess that we want in this dressing. Now, if you don't have a Vitamix, I would suggest at this point that you would, if you're using a different kind of blender that isn't a high-powered blender, it's advisable to soak the cashews before you use them. But in a Vitamix, you really don't need to, I find. So now we're going to add our liquid milk, and I'm using soy milk as my milk, and then a little bit of water, and I happen to just mix them together in this container. You certainly don't need to do that. And then I'm adding some lemon juice, a squirt of brown mustard, and I'm saying in here about 2 teaspoons. I'm just going to eyeball it because I don't mind if I have a little extra. I really like that flavor of the mustard. And then I'm saying to add about a teaspoon of balsamic vinegar. And again, it does not have to be anything fancy, but it can be. You can use a flavored vinegar if you want to. You can use extra vinegar if you want to. I'm just going to give it about a teaspoon, maybe 2, just a little splash there. I find that I like it with extra balsamic as well. So again, I don't bother to measure because I'm looking for that shortcut that works for me.
Hey, Vicki, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Sid wanted to know if white beans could be used in place of the cashews.
Absolutely. Yes. In fact, the white beans can be used if you're avoiding nuts. You could use steamed cauliflower instead. So definitely you don't need to use the nuts if you're avoiding nuts. And then I've got a dash of salt.
Good suggestion.
Very good suggestion. And that works great. And I would say that having tried it both ways, it's a little creamier with the nuts. But if you're used to not having nuts, you won't miss that. And it'll still be really nice and creamy and flavorful. So definitely works that way as well. So, and I added a dash of salt. But again, if you're avoiding salt, just leave that out. And now we'll run our Vitamix. So I'll make just a little bit of noise here for a moment.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to mute you while you do that. So I'm muting Vicki so that you guys, if you're listening, especially with a headset or something, that you won't have to hear the Vitamix go, and it shouldn't take her too long. If you have any questions or comments, please post them. I'd love to put them up and talk about what you're thinking about with Vicki. And I think it looks like she might be done. Let's see. Oh, almost. I can see it's still going. So have any of you used those substitutions that Vicki had talked about or that Sid had talked about? Okay, I had muted you so we didn't hear the Vitamix, and I just kind of talked while you were blending.
And that's how fast that is. And
Isn't it like something? That's
so
fantastic.
fast. You can make your own dressing so fast that it's kind of like about as fast as it would take you to go to the refrigerator and get some that you bought already pre-made or something out of the refrigerator. But since I'm avoiding oil, I like to make my own dressings, and it can be just sometimes I just use plain vinegar, plain flavor or flavored or plain balsamic, and that's kind of a standard as well. But sometimes I like just the creaminess of the ranch that I'm making here. And so I'm just going to take a little bit of salad and plate this in this very simple way. And again, we've got this creamy, creamy ranch, and I'm just going to show you how easy it is to just serve this up. And this also stays good in the refrigerator for a good week. And as it sits, when you use the cashews that I've used, it does get thicker. So a lot of times when I take it out of the refrigerator, and I'll store the leftover of this dressing in a jar as well, a bigger one, more like a pint size probably. And I do add a little bit of water after the first day or so because it gets a little bit thicker, and I'm able to thin it out with a little bit of water. So this is our salad. And of course, if this were your lunch, you might have a really big amount of this because you'll want to have plenty of food. And this is also a lovely side along with something else, or to put this into a wrap and have a salad inside of a wrap. So all kinds of fun ways you can enjoy this. And here's our lunch salad.
Oh, I would go to that restaurant.
This is
And
really
Mona said I
on
could easily eat that big bowl of salad. Yes, me too, Mona. I'm a
yeah,
salad eater as well.
and that's what I was going to say too. I tend to, this might be two salads for me, but about a quart or so is common for me to have for a lunch. And I would often add something to it that I might have left over, maybe some beans or some, if I had some tofu that I cooked ahead, or some tempeh, or some quinoa, as I mentioned, or maybe some fruit. So I might mix and match different days and add different things to this. But I would tend to eat quite a bit of it for lunch. I might add some roasted vegetables, some sweet potatoes, things like that. So you can make it as interesting and exciting as you like from day to day. But that's our lunch salad. And now we're ready to make our dinner.
Look at that. You're making breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and in just such little time. This somebody would be sitting at a restaurant with a beeper in their lap, and it still wouldn't have gone off, and waiting for one meal.
That's right. And when you make a big salad, and of course, this was a random amount that I kind of created as a bowl of salad here. But if you're making enough for several days, you might want to make an even bigger batch so that you can have lots of salads that are ready to enjoy. A lot of times, I think the barrier to having salad is that we don't feel like chopping. And so we might feel like eating the salad if someone else made it for us. And so we can be that person that makes it for us, but just do it ahead, so you've got enough for a couple of days. And depending on which ingredients you choose, you might be able to make enough for several days. And if they're a little more delicate, like the baby greens and microgreens I'm using, they won't be as good after about 3 days, I find. So I would probably make this would be like 2 days worth probably for me, and then I'll do it again. So it kind of just depends what you're including. A little bit more hearty ingredients will last even longer in the refrigerator. You could add avocado, tomatoes, all those things we talked about as well.
Yeah.
So are we ready for dinner?
Oh. Well, you're talking to green warriors who love to eat. So we are always ready for the next
Always,
meal.
always ready. All right, so here we go. We're going to start. I actually made, just before we came on, I made a pot of whole wheat pasta. And so my pasta is waiting for me, and that it's nice and warm already. So that's going to be nice. And so now we're going to make our sauce. And the sauce we're making is a no cheese sauce. And there's lots of different ways of doing this. And I'm going to show you what I like to do as my go-to. So here we go. I have started with an onion, and I sauteed this onion in water. So it's still, I don't use oil. So I just sauteed this literally in water, and it still gets nice and brown. Lots of times people will say to me, does it work without oil? Well, yes, it does. You can see it gets nice and golden still. And I will honestly say that I think it takes a little bit longer to saute in water than it does in oil. But I do find that it can get just as, caramelized and nice and golden brown. So I'm taking that onion, and I'm just going to put that caramelized, sauteed onion into my food processor, or not my food processor, sorry, into my Vitamix. This is a larger container of a Vitamix, because we're going to be making a sauce that is going to need that larger container.
Is that 64 ounces on that one?
That's exactly right. Yep, this is a 64. You could probably get away without it being all the way to that size. There's one in between, isn't there? This one is, I think, 32, the one I made my dressing in. So we're starting with the onion. And then we're going to add all of our ingredients just to the jar of the Vitamix to get our sauce going. So we're going to go again into the idea of cashews to turn our sauce creamy. So I'm using a cup of cashews, and I'll answer Sid's very brilliant question right away, which is, if you don't use nuts, what else can you use? And you can definitely use beans, white beans, or cauliflower, or a combination, or you could use potatoes that are steamed. You can use anything you like. So now we're going to add, so I've got cashews there in my case here, and then we're going to add a cup of non-dairy milk. I'm using a soy milk that's just organic soybeans and water. And then I'm adding some actual water. And then I'm adding 6 ounces, which is about half a jar, could be 6 to 8 ounces, half of a jar of roasted red peppers that I've rinsed off. And I stick the rest of the roasted red peppers in the freezer for the next time I might make this dish. And if you want to, this is a kind of a convenience because it comes in a jar already roasted, but I have many times had lots of fresh roasted red bell peppers in my refrigerator. So I just roast them in the oven for about 15 minutes, or you could even add the red peppers to the skillet with the onion and just kind of saute the peppers with the onions. I made this not very long ago, and I happened to have an extra yellow bell pepper. So the color was a little different, but I added that to the pan of hot sauteing onions instead of the red pepper. And it changed the color of the final sauce that you're going to see, but it was just as delicious and still really fun. And so you can kind of mix and match and use whatever you like in this. Okay, so we've got our red bell pepper that can either be from a jar or fresh. It's just a step that kind of makes us save a little bit of time if you're getting it already prepared. And then I'm adding a little bit of nutritional yeast. If you don't like nutritional yeast, you can leave it out. I'm also adding a little bit of, I will say it's not a very dominant flavor here. It's just a little bit in the background. Adding a little bit of lemon juice. Adding a little bit of yellow mustard, again about 2 teaspoons. And I also am just kind of doing that by eye. A little bit of salt, or leave it out if you're avoiding salt. Maybe add extra lemon. And then a dash of cayenne pepper for a little bit of bite. But again, you can leave that out if you prefer not to have that extra zing. So we'll move that aside, and we're going to be ready to put everything's in the blender here. We're just going to make some noise again for a moment if you want to mute me.
Oh, you won't be making noise because I'm going to be muting you, and I'm going to be talking to the Green Warriors while you're blending.
Very good.
So we have asked you, Green Warriors, if you do cook without oil, and Mom Caregiver said that, Sid Nodder said yes to no oil. It's easy to saute, roast, and bake without it. Sid's been on the show quite a few times, and we're going to be drawing for her book giveaway a little bit later on in the broadcast. This is Sid's book, The Plan A Diet, so you guys can check that out, and we'll be drawing for it a little bit later. And we're still blending, so I'm going to, okay, I think Vicki's going to check to make sure it's good.
We're good.
Okay, excellent.
So here's our sauce. You can see that it's kind of the color of like, I don't know, like a mac and cheese sauce that might come from a box, but it's homemade and it's fresh and there's no cholesterol, but it's a really beautiful, rich color. And so I'm just going to plate this, and it smells so good too. The roasted red peppers and the onions, it just makes a wonderful combination. So I love this sauce on pasta, obviously, because it's a mac and cheese. But I also really like this sauce on just like a baked potato or over broccoli. And in fact, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do here, because now we're ready to just plate this mac and cheese up. I'm just going to take some warm pasta and I'm going to put the sauce on it, and it's ready to serve. Or if you want to, because I used to do it this way all the time, I mix the sauce with the pasta and put it into the oven and get the whole casserole dish nice and warm. You could even top it with breadcrumbs if you want, but I love it just like that. And so then we're just going to add a little bit of sauce over the top. And this is so good you could drink it with a spoon. It's like just delicious. So we've got our pasta ready to go. And this is really kind of a template I think of, because it can be as simple as this, just your delicious sauce on top of your pasta of your choice. I've used the whole wheat here, but you could use a gluten-free or any kind of pasta you want. You could put this over a different kind of grain, like a rice or quinoa or something else. And also fun is to add any kind of vegetable to this. So you could have a steamed or roasted vegetable that you include some broccoli in here, or some spinach, some roasted butternut squash. Sometimes I'll add to the sauce or just mix in. You can add this sauce over potatoes, or again, just over vegetables, but it's so good. So let's just mix it up here and I'll show you a little forkful. I'm tempted to take a bite of this, which I won't, but I'm tempted to, and you'll
do
watch
it for us.
You'll watch the sauce dripping down my face. It's so good. Like it's so good. So yeah, this is one of our favorites and on rotation every week or two here.
Oh, that looks delicious.
So that's our easy mac and cheese. And actually that recipe's in my cookbook as well. And yes, really one of my favorites, and definitely customizable to your dietary preferences. If you want to leave out the nuts and add beans instead, or add some vegetables to get some extra fiber, serve a big salad along with it, like our lunch salad, something like that with that, roasted asparagus. I mean, everything that I've mentioned, they're all really nice along with, or even mixed in, kind of depends on your, what your favorite things are.
Oh, that was wonderful. I happened to be in the grocery store the other day and with my husband, and we walked by a display of those blue boxes of what they call mac and cheese. I don't know why they say cheese, because it's powder. And we used to eat that, especially when we had young kids. Sometimes we would make that because it was just an easy thing, and you thought that you were feeding them healthy back then because you didn't know any better. And he said, well, I could go for some mac and cheese. And I said, well, I'm going to have someone that's going to put a great recipe demo. And so he's really excited about watching you make it, and because he loves to cook. And Victor Laviola said, looks so yummy. And Sid Nader said, wonderful demonstration as usual.
Thank you,
also
Sid.
said, I bet it could be nacho dip too.
It could be, and you could actually spice this up even more. I'm adding a little extra sauce because I just find the sauce so tempting. This sauce is really, really nice, and I've mixed it in with a chili so that you get kind of a chili mac, leftover chili added to this cheese sauce and pasta. It's just, found a lot of different places to call home here in my kitchen. And it's really easy. You can see I play this little game with myself sometimes where I put the pasta on to cook and I start to make the sauce, and I try to see if I can beat the time it takes to get the whole pot of pasta to boil and then make the pasta, and see if my sauce can be done by that time after I've sauteed my onion. And in almost every case, I can make this sauce in the time it takes to make pasta. And when you think of that, when you're tempted to get a carry out order or stop at a drive-through or something like that, and at home, as quick as it takes to make a pot of pasta, you can make this sauce, and this will last all week too. So I'll pour this into probably a quart-sized jar and keep this in the refrigerator. And then, as my daughter visits or my son comes over, my husband just wants a quick snack or something, they can just take the sauce out and pour it over vegetables or pasta or, potatoes and whatever. And you've got an easy meal that's just, exactly what's in it.
Oh, so nice to know that you can make these meals. I mean, in less than an hour, and we've been chatting too. So, if you didn't have us distracting you, you'd been done by now. But yeah, and Mona said to Sid, that sounds good, and add some jalapenos for that nacho dip. Yeah.
Some jalapenos, absolutely, and some beans on top of it, and lettuce and tomato, and you could, and avocado, you could make it really fun. And also the nice thing about this sauce, one other thing, besides that you can use it in lots of different ways, is this is really great to freeze. So if you want to have a meal or two, but you've got another several servings left over, and you want to have something different on, a different day, This freezes great if you use super cubes or any kind of other system in the freezer that will allow you to, put them away so you've got a cup or 2 cups ready to pull out for a different meal. This just freezes beautifully, and then you can just pop them out and warm them on the stove.
Oh, that is so awesome. I'm glad that you shared that with us. And I also thought that it could possibly be like a soup, like a base for a soup, maybe.
I bet it could. I don't think I've tried it that way, but I'm sure that would be a great way to, you could extend it a little bit with some broth
Yeah.
and maybe add some potatoes to it and kind of turn it into a potato cheddar or broccoli, I'm sure.
Oh, just the
Yeah.
fact that you can freeze it, that is such a game changer because for a lot of us, we really like to batch cook and we sometimes you don't have time or you don't feel like it. And just knowing that you can go to the freezer and get something, and usually things that have cheese are not necessarily freezer friendly, but this is going that doesn't have cheese and it's going to be great.
That's exactly right. It's a contrast to what dairy would normally, prevent you from doing. So yeah, you can freeze this and that way you can always have something handy on those busy days where you don't have time to make something, from scratch. And this way you've got your own homemade meals waiting for you. So definitely I like to have this kind of either this or a red sauce like a marinara, something like that in my refrigerator and or freezer all the time. And when I run out, it's time to make more because I love to have this as a go-to, maybe some kind of a veggie burger, some kind of a soup, and then I feel really taken care of all week long.
And you can freeze it in small portions for a single serve too, so it doesn't have to be that you have to defrost the whole container full. And Kat said steamed peas would be good with that.
Oh
That's
yeah,
a
what a
good.
great idea.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so.
definitely. Peas would be great in that.
And Victor wanted to know what kind of pasta is that? Sorry if you've already reviewed this.
Yeah, so I actually just used a whole wheat rotini. And I like whole wheat pasta. I know a lot of people avoid gluten, so you could use a chickpea pasta or any kind that you like. My husband actually likes white pasta, so we usually makes a batch of that, and I make whole wheat. And if you like something made of red lentil pasta or any other kind that you enjoy, this works over any kind of pasta. But yeah, I like a whole wheat, and this is just kind of a go-to from the Kroger for about $1. It's just easy and just made with whole wheat flour.
Yeah, we're avoiding pasta at this time because the gluten seems to be a factor with us. So we've been using a lot of spiralized zucchini.
Oh, what a great idea. Absolutely. Sure, absolutely. Just put this right over vegetables and you could spiralize zucchini or sweet potatoes or any other kind of a vegetable that you enjoy and turn it into something really delicious with a lovely sauce on it. It's a
Yeah,
great
spiralized
idea.
zucchini is so much fun to twirl on your fork too. And when it's
It
covered
is.
in a delicious sauce, you don't really think about it being zucchini. It really feels like you're almost like you're having pasta.
It
Oh,
definitely does. Yeah.
Sid's got the wheels turning. She's like, drop it on a pizza.
Yes, I'm sure you could drop it on a pizza. And I'm thinking when you're saying spiralizing, I love to spiralize potatoes and sweet potatoes, and you can spiralize beets. And I can just picture how pretty this would be over a combination of those three. If you took some potatoes, sweet potatoes, beets, and onions maybe, and put them all in the oven and roasted those, and then some lovely sauce over it, it would be really good. Yeah, definitely. I'm sure you can create a pizza. I haven't done that. You could do probably the ranch as well if you wanted a fun topping for your pizza that was slightly different than a red sauce. But
Yeah, we have so many creative people that are watching, and Sid does such a great job of doing cooking demos. Although she's been on the show several times here, and she's not done a cooking demo. Maybe one day I'll have her do that too, because we all love to. We like to eat, and we like to watch people make food too.
yeah, Sue does great demos. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, Victor said spiralizing zucchini does have the same mouthfeel of pasta. Great idea. Yeah, I we've been doing a lot of that lately here at the house, and it goes with so many different kinds of, even in a soup,
It really
just
does because
drop it in the soup,
it's
and
such a
that's a fun.
neutral flavor. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun thing for kids to do to crank the spiralizer in the kitchen and and participate. Okay,
It
let me
really
just
is.
go look and see if we had any other comments or questions. If you have a question for Vicki, you may want to have just a question about how do you cook without oil, or just kind of tips from the kitchen that she can share from you if you're having any things that you're struggling with or not sure about. She can definitely help you with those things. If you have a question about that, just go ahead and chime in and ask that, because we will definitely have a lot of great ideas coming from Vicki. And she, and like I said, she wrote this wonderful recipe book, and we're going to have a drawing for this next week. So in the show notes, there's going to be something that you can go to try to enter to win. It's a lovely, lovely cookbook, and it has so many different recipes in it, just like the ones that we were talking about today. Let me just check and see. Okay. So why don't you tell us some more about the cookbook, since I brought it up?
Absolutely. So the Plant-Based for Life cookbook has over 100 recipes, and each one of them has a photograph. So, and I took these photographs myself. So every recipe that you'll see in here has a photograph next to it of how to prepare it. And there's lots of recipes in here that are actually almost every single recipe, with the exception of maybe two, are extremely simple, all in one bowl, all in one pan, all in one, jar of Vitamix, that kind of thing. Everything is very simple with simple ingredients. The one that might be a little longer to make is my lasagna, just because you have to make a sauce and another sauce and a filling, a few other pieces. But everything is real simple and usually comes together very quickly. And there's lots of delicious desserts in here. These are peanut butter and jelly cookies and strawberry shortcake bars and some homemade ice creams and lots of breakfast recipes. Here's my applesauce donuts. So there's lots of lovely, my hand is probably on top of the photograph of it, so it's hard to see. But these are, but yeah, so there's about 100 recipes, a little bit more. And there's also a section in here about how to get started, how to redo your pantry, how to eat more greens, how to find ways to add more greens to your meals. A little bit of information about the difference between vegan and plant-based for people who struggle with the, what is the difference? What to think about getting with your equipment if you're on a budget, which things are most helpful to start out with and which things maybe can wait. So a little bit of information about how to get things started and why we eat this way. And a little bit of, because I'm a coach, I kind of help people with the objections they might feel that or obstacles that they might have wondered about themselves, like, well, is this expensive, or what do I do if my family's not on board, things like that. I have a little section in here where you can where I kind of become your coach to help you through some of the questions that you might have that might be in the way of moving forward with what's best for you and your health.
Well, thanks for talking about the book. You really described it so well, and it just has so much to offer. And I love how I had asked you to do a recipe demo today, and you agreed and said that you would do 3. And this is almost like if you were starting a plant-based lifestyle, what would your day one look like? And there it is. You have a meal plan for your first day. And if you really wanted, you could just make that meal plan for your first week. You could just keep eating the same things, and you don't have to eat something for breakfast or lunch or dinner. You could change around or whatever you want. And that could be your first week of your first attempt at doing the lifestyle, or if you wanted to get back into it. Or like we were saying about how when people don't have much time, this is just a wonderful, wonderful solution that you gave to us. And
well, thank you.
Yeah. Victor
Thank you.
said
And
the
I
picture
think
looks
that a lot
great.
of the recipes in here you could mix and match. So you could take one of the breakfast ideas and maybe one of the sauces or a soup, and kind of make this that I've showed you today or a different one from here, and vary it up from week to week if you want to. Some people are happy eating the same thing many times, and others really like a lot of variety. And it does kind of come down to how much time you want to spend in the kitchen, and then how many people you're cooking for. So many people that are cooking for a larger number of people may want to have more items to prepare on a weekend, or maybe you'll make some things that you'll batch cook. So you'll have them ready on a weekend, and then maybe in the middle of the week, you'll make something else. And so it kind of depends. And it does take a little bit of trial and error just to see how much food you'll need, so that you've got something handy, because it really does, that's super important to have ready what you're going to, the ingredients, if you're going to make it. If you're hungry, the prepared food already that you made the day before is very, very helpful.
Yeah, I saw that Victor had asked about what you ate for breakfast, but the comment kind of rolled by and I don't see it. So obviously you eat the oats that you made, but can you give us another example of something that you eat for breakfast?
Yes, actually, I do often have, something like this, oats. I do sometimes make a tofu scramble, and I've got a few of those ideas in here. Sometimes it's as simple as leftover mashed potatoes that I've made the day before with, I just use a non-dairy milk and a little bit of seasoning. And sometimes I'll use those potatoes and some leftover vegetables that I have, and I might put both of them together on an Ezekiel English muffin that I've toasted. So almost many days when I don't have a lot of time, I use Ezekiel toast, and then I kind of pile up some potatoes and or sweet potatoes and or asparagus or cauliflower, whatever I've got on hand. That today, that is actually what I had, was an Ezekiel English muffin. This is what I'm having tomorrow. But English muffin with some potatoes and some cauliflower and some asparagus, because that's what I had handy. So I like that savory in the morning with some vegetables in it. But yeah, so it's usually pretty simple. It's usually something like toast and potatoes.
Well, awesome.
And vegetables, yeah.
Thank you so much. You've shared so much with us. And Green Warriors, just please click like to show your appreciation for what Vicki shared with us today. It takes a lot to put together a recipe demo, and she did 3 recipes. And it's not that it takes a lot to cook this way, but when you're going to prepare it for an audience, you have to set things up just so and make sure that everybody can see what you're doing. I've done a few recipe demos, well, more than a few, but I've done some as a guest on other people's shows. And there's a lot to it, because you just want to make it just so nice. And I loved all that you have so many pictures in that recipe book, because that's a game changer for a lot of people. So Vicki, please tell us about what you do and how we can find you.
Well, thank you, Amy. My website is AnnArborVeganKitchen.com. And I have a blog there and create and share recipes. So subscribe if you're so inclined. Take a peek at my website and subscribe so that you'll get my new recipes as soon as they're published. I'm also a certified personal chef, so I do have a couple of clients that I cook for on the weekends. And I'm also a master vegan lifestyle coach. So I do work with people across the country remotely who are looking to transition to a plant-based diet and just having some obstacles or some questions, maybe need a little guidance to just kind of get over the hump of making it work for them. Maybe they've tried it, maybe they've got a condition that they're trying to reverse, or some chronic situation that they're struggling with. So I work with people who are looking to become whole food plant-based and just need a little bit of help along the way. So I do work with people for 1 or 3 months doing that. And then I cook for people as a cooking instructor for groups of all sizes. I have people in my kitchen if they're local, and otherwise I do remote teaching for people with a variety of audiences, and am delighted to be able to answer any questions that anyone might have. And feel free to email me. I have a contact page on my website that you can reach out if you have any questions about substitute ingredients, or you're wondering about a recipe instruction or any other questions. I'm happy to try to answer, and or try to get an answer if I don't have one.
Okay. And here's a question that often comes up with people who have discovered the whole food plant-based lifestyle. And I'd love for you to answer it. And it's from Victor. Do you eat carbs at every meal?
I eat carbs at every meal because that's what gives me energy. That's what I run on. So I try to have some protein as well, throughout the day, meaning foods like beans. And of course, all the foods we're talking about have some amount of protein, some amount of carb, and some amount of fat as well. But I do tend to have kind of a carb heavy whole food, potatoes, sweet potatoes, quinoa, brown rice, those kinds of carbs, butternut squash, and so forth, corn, all those kinds of lovely whole foods as a base for whatever else I'm having. So I create a lot of soups and stews where I'm using those ingredients along with all kinds of other vegetables and beans. And I do try to include beans and greens often throughout the day for just all the extra micronutrients that they and fiber that they add. But I do live on the energy I get from potatoes and sweet potatoes primarily, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I eat carbs. And I guess for me, I would want to distinguish between the carbs that are refined and the carbs that are not refined. And
Yes,
so, because it seems like carbs in general are vilified, but actually it's the refined carbs, meaning the things that you find in boxes and in crinkly packages and jars and things like that, those are the ones that have been processed. And a lot of the fiber has been taken out of them, and that's why they're really not good for you. But when you eat the unrefined carbs, meaning the things that you can pull off of a tree or dig out of the dirt or cut off of a plant, those are not going to hurt you, and you're going to be fine eating as many of them as you like. And they all have some degree of protein in them, some more than others. So,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly such an important point because, yes, carbs are vilified, but it's only certain ones. We're not talking about choosing to eat, cookie dough from a Pillsbury package or, a Duncan Hines cake or something like that. Those are the carbs or the donuts at the corner bakery. Those are the carbs that are not our friend. But the ones that are, the whole potato, the whole sweet potato, brown rice with beans, because beans are vegetables. All of these are good healthy carbs. So yeah, the starchier ones are the ones I think we get a lot of energy from. But again, the good whole food plant-based versions of these foods.
Yeah, all the bodybuilders that I've interviewed on the show, including Robert Cheek, said it's not the protein that you want to worry about. It's the carbohydrates that you want to fuel yourself, and that's what's going to fuel the athlete and fuel all of us, like you said. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's such a great point.
Well, I'm really excited because I'm going to be doing this book giveaway now, and I hope Sid's still with us so she can see live that we're going to do this drawing. And many of you that are watching and listening have already entered to win this. And next time we're going to be drawing for your book, the plant-based book here, but that'll be next time. And I'll have links in the show notes for how you can enter to win that cookbook from Vicki. But I'm going to do that, and I'm doing this all by myself, guys. So just bear with me, and we are going to get that spinning wheel. And there's the spinning wheel. So I'm going to spin the wheel, and we're going to see who wins this book. All right. Yay! And it's Penny. Penny is the winner. Congratulations, Penny. I'm going to be sending your information to Sid, and she's going to be sending your copy of the Plan A Diet to you. And I'll have a link to this book in the show notes because it's a wonderful book as well. And next time we're going to do something similar for your book, Vicki. So that should be a lot of fun.
Excellent. I can't wait.
Yeah. So I want to really thank you Vicki. Your expertise and your passion and your delicious recipes have truly enlightened us and inspired us. So, Vicki, what would be your final take-home message for our Green Warriors?
You can do it, and you owe it to yourself. You get to feel this good and get the kind of energy you deserve by eating well. So yes, I invite you to share these recipes with your loved ones and enjoy them in your own kitchen.
Wonderful. And Green Warriors, tell us what you're going to remember about today. We learned a lot. And one of my takeaways is self-care. I mean, I think about that a lot, but it was a reminder that they often say if you're in an airplane and the oxygen mask drops down, you need to put it on yourself first before you can help others. And Vicki has definitely taught us ways that we can care for ourselves so we can even be a better version of ourselves for people that we love, and that we can take care of them and hopefully not have to have them one day take care of us. And I also wanted to thank Jess Task Voice. She did the countdown. She did the promos. She did the voiceover. She's very talented at that. And Jess Task Voice, tell us who's coming up next.
Ever wondered if there's a way to prevent and reverse autoimmune diseases naturally? Learn what is not in any Harvard medical textbook and what most doctors don't know about autoimmune disease. Join us as we learn practical insights and no-nonsense wellness strategies from Peter Rogers, MD, Wednesday, January 24th, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, on Be Green with Amy Live.
And to you, my incredible Green Warrior, thank you. Your comments are not only interesting, but also incredibly helpful to all of us. And your engagement makes our community vibrant and supportive. So keep sharing your thoughts and your experiences and your questions, because together we're creating a space for inspiration and growth in our plant-based journey. So as a special thank you to you, I'm offering you 5 free recipes. So just go to begreenwithamy.com/join and I'll send them to you. So Green Warriors and Vicki, please take your right hand and grab your left shoulder, and take your left hand and grab your right shoulder. Now squeeze, because that's a hug from me to you. And if you want to join me and Vicki with my tagline, you guys can type it in the comments below. Are you ready, Vicki?
I'm ready.
All right. Until I see all of you again, remember, be strong, be well, and be green. Thank you so much, Vicki. Thank you, Green Warrior. Thanks to everybody for making this possible. We'll see you again soon.
My pleasure.
Now you can get 5 free whole food plant-based SOS-free recipes from Be Green with Amy. Just click on the link in the show notes and Amy will send you 5 free recipes, motivational quotes, and more so you can be strong, be well, and be green.